Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Social Work, SOSW, Certificate in Tribal Studies, CTRBS, BSW 04 to Tribal Society, Block-1 Introduction to Tribal Society and Culture, Unit-3 Rites of Passage, 3.0 Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to explain the meaning of rites of passage, describe the various types of rites of passage, and distinguish between rites of transition, separation and incorporation. 3.1 Introduction. Rite of passage is any of numerous ceremonial events existing in all societies that mark the passage of an individual from one social or religious status to another. The term was coined by the French anthropologist Arnold van Gennep in 1909. Many of the important rites are connected with the biological stages of life, birth, maturity, reproduction, and death. Other rites celebrate changes that are wholly cultural, such as initiation into special societies. In modern societies, graduation from school is a rite of passage. Scholars often interpret rites of passage as mechanisms by which society confronts and incorporates change without disrupting the equilibrium necessary to social order in all societies. Major events in the life cycle are subject to ritualized forms of recognition. Across the world, such events are celebrated in diverse and sometimes elaborate ways, with different cultures singling out different stages of life for attention. Where ancestry is important, as in China or many of the societies of Africa, death may be the subject of extended and intricate mortuary ceremonials, which act both to separate the living from the dead and to transform the dead from elder to ancestor. In others, death may be neglected and cultural salience given rather to marriage, to the installation of office holders, or to initiations into adulthood or into cult groupings. In these cultural processes, actual biological events are subsumed and transformed, even negated in the various schemas of culture. Despite the variety in the forms and meanings of such rituals, a certain unity has been given to the category by the work of Arnold van Gennep. Van Gennep envisioned life in society as a house with many rooms in which the individual has to be convened formally from one defined position to another. From this perspective, life is not a matter of gradual development and change but rather consists of a series of abrupt and ritualized transitions. Rites of passage are special rituals societies employ to assist their members at key times of biographical change. These life transitions follow a recognizable pattern of behavior in many cultures. For example, babies are given a name and social identity, youths enter adulthood or marry, others retire, gain particular qualifications such as degrees or enter particular professions, or pass from the world of the living to the world of the dead. Changes of status can be related to changes in identity because the term identity embraces social and psychological aspects of life. The term status tends to refer to sociological values without reference to the personal feelings and self-evaluation of individuals. In this sense, the term status emphasizes the social dimension and identity of the psychological aspects of an individual's life. The idea of status in passage rituals was first introduced by the anthropologist Arnold van Gennep, who saw regeneration as the law of life and described rites of passage as a threefold process with phases of separation, segregation, and integration. For there to be a new self, the old self must ritually die. Candidates for some rite would be separated from the status, to be left behind, leaving familiar companions, surroundings and home, perhaps encountering actual or symbolic aggression in being wrenched away or carried off. Second, They enter a between period devoid of distinguishing marks of status and expressions of their old identity, such as names or clothing. In the case of passage to adulthood, adolescents may together undergo a degree of discipline and share a mutual sense of hardship, bonding them together. Their curtailed freedom begins a reorientations toward their future status and life obligations. This may involve learning the traditions of their society or the skills of some particular profession or trade. Only after this period of learning and endurance is complete do they undergo the third phase of reincorporation into society. However, they do so with their new status and identity, perhaps involving a new name or title, forms of dress or style of language, and almost certainly new patterns of behavior with appropriate duties and responsibilities. Van Gennep likened society to a house with people moving over thresholds, from room to room. The Latin word for threshold is limen, hence his three phases of rites of passage as preliminal, liminal, and postliminal. He also argued that, depending upon the final goal of a ritual, the preliminal, liminal, or postliminal phase would be stressed over and above the others. Rites of passage sometimes involve more than one type of status change in a marriage. For example, it is not only the bride and groom that pass from being single or divorced to being married, but their parents also become parents-in-law. Parents, siblings, and friends may all enter new relationships, motherhood. However, caution is required when the idea of rites of passage is applied to events in contemporary and large-scale societies where little recognition exists. Such understandings of ritual permit insight into the significance of funerary ritual. A rite of passage observed in a great majority of human societies. Numerous changes of identity are associated with funeral rites, affecting the statuses of the dead, surviving relatives, and members of the broader community. 3. To pregnancy and childbirth rites. The ceremonies of pregnancy and childbirth together generally constitute a whole. Often the first rites performed separate the pregnant woman from society, from her family group, and sometimes even from her sex. They are followed by rites pertaining to pregnancy itself, which is a transitional period. Finally comes the rites of childbirth, intended to reintegrate the woman into the groups to which she previously belonged, or to establish her new position in society as a mother, especially if she has given birth to her first child. At the onset of pregnancy, a woman is placed in a state of isolation, either because she is considered impure and dangerous or because her very pregnancy places her physiologically and socially in an abnormal condition. Among the Todas of South India, the order of pregnancy and childbirth rites are as follows. When a woman becomes pregnant, she is forbidden to enter the villages or the sacred places. 2. In the 5th month, there is a ceremony called village weave. At this time the woman must live in a special hut, and she is ritually separated from the dairy, the sacred industry which is the heart of Toda social life. 3. She invokes two deities, Parn and Piri. 4. She burns each hand into places. A ceremony marks the leaving of the hut. The woman drinks sacred milk. 6. She goes back to live in her home till the 7th month. 7. During the 7th month, the ceremony of the bow and arrow establishes a social father for the unborn child as the Todas practice. Polyandry. 8. The woman returns to her home, performing the appropriate rites. The last two ceremonies occur only during the first pregnancy, or if the woman has a new husband, or if she wants her future children to have a different father from the ones she has previously chosen. 9. The woman delivered in her house, in someone's presence and without special ceremonies, kiss Smiley 2 or 3 days later, mother and child go to live in a special hut. The rites performed for the departure from the house, then the departure from the hut, and the return to the house are the same as those marking the woman's previous trip. 11. While in the hut, the woman, her husband, and the child are tainted with impurity called itchil. 12. Ceremonies are performed to protect them against the evil spirit, Kurt. They return to ordinary life by drinking sacred milk among the Orao tribe before a child is born as well as after birth. All the precautions are taken to protect the mother and child. As soon as the child is born, the Pehen is asked to make sacrifices to the principal deity. The period of impurity following the childbirth is the most dangerous period, as it is during this period the mother and child are more liable to its attacks than at any other time. The relatives always keep a watch on the room where they are secluded. Until the purification ceremony is performed, the whole house is considered unclean. Commenting on birthing rites, Van Gennep cites at length W.H.R. Reverses, 1906 ethnography of the Tonga tribe of India. Among these people, a series of pregnancy rites are performed, first to separate the pregnant woman from her village. After an extended period, a ceremony is held in which the woman drinks sacred milk to purify herself, her husband, and their child. Subsequently, the family is reintegrated into their social group. No longer a polluting woman, she is re-established in her village as a mother. Among the Gonds tribe, many restrictions are placed on pregnant women. A pregnant woman should not go for fishing, and all kinds of arduous tasks are also tabooed. During the first pregnancy, she is sent to her parents' house either in the 7th or the 9th month. A special medicine with boiled and dried ginger, pippali, long pepper, and garlic is prepared and given to the woman after delivery. It is believed that this medicine generates heat and keeps mother and child in good health. The child and mother are given ceremonial bath on 9th or 11th day. After this purificatory bath, it is believed that pollution period is over and she can attend to her routine domestic duties. Among the Kolam tribe of Andhra Pradesh, the women generally work and attend to normal domestic duties till delivery time. No food taboos or other restrictions are imposed on a pregnant woman. The only restriction imposed on such woman is that she should not see either solar or lunar eclipse, else she may give birth to a blind child. In case of partial observation, the child will lose one eye. In case she observes the eclipse through the holes of roof of the house, the child will be born with cleaved lips. They believed that delivery within the house is very inauspicious. When an expectant mother reaches the advanced stage of pregnancy, a temporary hut is constructed at the corner of the village. This hut is known as Mala Gudisa or Mela Gudisa in their dialect. When a pregnant woman develops labor, she retires to the Mala Gudisa. When the pregnant woman is in labor in a separate house, some of the elderly women also stay inside the house, but they do not touch her nor render any kind of assistance. The pregnant woman takes care of everything. The experienced women guide her what to do. The mother herself has to bury the placenta. As the woman who delivered a child is considered unclean and impure, she has to take bath and wash her clothes daily in the stream. She should not go to the stream through main path but from outskirts of the village. The food is cooked in the actual house and is daily sent to the delivered woman. She has to remain in solitary confinement till the umbilical cord has dried up and fallen off. The mother and child are given purificatory bath at home and community dinner is arranged. After this ceremony, a woman can attend to her routine domestic duties during pregnancy. Rites of separation is most heightened as the pregnant woman is usually separated from her family, social circle, members of her society by going and living in a separate hut isolated from the rest of the society. From her delivery to till she is purified, the woman is in a transitional state, and when she is purified by taking bath, drinking milk, and other rites of incorporation, she is accepted back in the society. In this section, you read about the meaning of rites of passage and rites of pregnancy, childbirth, 3.3 puberty and initiation rites. The physical puberty of girls is marked by a swelling of the breasts, an enlargement of the pelvis, the appearance of pubic hair, and above all the first menstrual flow. The physical puberty for boys are marked by change in the voice, enlargement of the testes, and the lengthening of the penis. The skin over the scrotum begins to thin and redden, and there is the beginning of a sparse amount of pubic hair at the base of the penis. There is an increased amount of pubic hair that is noticeably coarser and darker than before. Boys also gain in muscle mass, the voice deepens, acne frequently becomes bothersome. Initiation rites are usually performed when girls and boys attain physical puberty. These initiation rites are performed to initiate the boys and girls into the world of adulthood among the Kolam tribe of Andhra Pradesh at the time of first menstruation. No specific rites and rituals are observed, but the girl is considered as unclean and impure. Soon after menstruation, the girl takes bath in a nearby stream. In case she menstruates outside the village, a temporary hut is constructed for her. If she menstruates inside her own house, she has to sit in a corner of the house. She should not touch others. She sleeps on the floor and eats in leaf plates. She should not even touch the house. If she touches the walls of the house, the parents think that some misfortune would happen to them and they rebuild the house. Even utensils and other household articles are sold and new articles bought. The menstruating woman is strictly prohibited from moving in the house and entering from the front door. The Kolams believe that if menstruating women do not follow strictly all these taboos, the members of the family may be eaten by the tiger when they go to the forest. She takes bath and washes her clothes in the nearby stream. When the menstruation stops, she is permitted to enter the house. After being cleaned, she performs her household duties. Initiation ceremony is a unique and distinct social institution among the Kolams tribe. The initiation ceremony is solemnized in order to recognize socially a boy as an adult and to lift certain taboos imposed on them earlier. This ritual is usually observed in the month of Pola, July, prior to full moon day. Every male member who attains the age between 15 to 18 years has to undergo this ceremony before marriage. Otherwise, one is not eligible for marriage, and he is also not eligible to accept sacred food offered at shrines of their deities during festivals or rituals. Before this ceremony, a boy is given the status of that of a girl, and restrictions generally imposed on a girl with regard to eating of ceremonial food is imposed. All the Kolams of the settlement meet and decide the day for celebration of the ritual in consultation with the village priest. On this day, the boy, who has to be initiated, is dressed like a woman with sari and other ornaments. He is accompanied by his own brother-in-law and village priest and visits the village deity. They carry along with them bread made of jowar or wheat flour, roasted cakes made of black gram, and a cock. The number of pairs of cakes should be equal to the number of divine spirits of his fratry. All these offerings are placed before the village deity, and immediately the boy and brother-in-law turn back. The village priest worships the village deity and sacrifices the cock. After completion of the rituals and prayers, the boy and his brother-in-law turn towards the shrine and offer their prayers. Then the priest offers food to the boy, and then they return to the village. After this ritual only, the boy is recognized as an adult member and he is eligible to accept sacred food offered to gods and goddesses. Eating of sacred food also makes him eligible to marry. Unless this initiation ceremony is observed, eating of sacred food or marriage celebrations are tabooed. It is significant to note that women folk are not at all eligible to eat the sacred food offered ritually to gods and goddesses till the stoppage of menopause. After this period, the women folk are entitled to eat sacred food offered to gods and goddesses. Among the Korwa tribe of Chotnagpur region in Bihar, girls who are menstruating must sit apart from the other persons at the time of eating. They should not jump, should not eat cold things or pickles. Menstruating women remain in isolation. They enter into the house or leave the house only by an outer room of every house, which has one small door which opens to the backside of the house, and never by the main entrance. If there is no other female member in the family, the husband cooks the food. They are also not to visit sacred places. After 4 days they go to the nearby stream to take bath for purification. They also wash their hair and clothes. Among the Kolanaikans tribe who can be found in the Nilamdar Valley, in Malappuram of Nilgiri district in Tamil Nadu, rites of separation is performed for girls who are menstruating. The menstruating girls are secluded for 4 days in one corner of the cave. During this period, the woman is considered to be unclean. 3.4 Marriage rites. Marriage constitute an important transition from one social category to another, because for at least one of the spouses it involves a change of family, clan, village, or tribe, and sometimes the newly married couple even establish residence in a new house. The change of residence is marked in the ceremonies by rites of separation, always primarily focusing on territorial passage, as the newly married woman almost all the time permanently shift from her own parental house to her husband's house. Furthermore, because of the number and importance of groups affected by the social union of two of their members, it is natural that the period of transition should take on considerable importance. This is the period commonly called the betrothal. Among a great number of people it consists of a special and autonomous part of the marriage ceremonies, including rites of separation and transition, and terminating with rites which ensure either a preliminary incorporation into the new environment or a separation from an autonomous transition period. Then come the rites of marriage, which consist chiefly of rites of permanent incorporation into the new environment. Among the Kabuis tribe of northeast India, wedding ceremony is solemnized at the residence of the bridegroom. In the early morning of the day, an omen-taking ritual called Guak Paijaume is performed, in which a healthy pig on behalf of the bride is offered to the supreme god. This ritual is performed at the residence of the bride. The spleen of the victim is examined by the present elders in search of good indicators. Guak Paijaume literally means observation of the pig's spleen. Guak is equal to pig, Pai is equal to spleen, Jaume is equal to observe. The pig is roasted and cut into small pieces, and then it is boiled. This boiled meat will be taken to the groom's house. After morning food is over, the bride will take bath and put on traditional marriage dress and costume, and she will be helped by her sister-in-laws of the family in dressing. Then, she along with her companions will start the journey for her final destination, which symbolizes that she is separated from her family and her village. When the bride along with her companions arrives at the residence of the groom, the bride is warmly received by her mother-in-law and a leaf cup of drink is offered, which she drinks it, juduimi. Before she enters the house, she is purified by contacting the smoke of kham that brings her in as free as possible of the evil adhering to her. Then, she will enter the house by crossing the door with her right foot, which symbolizes that the bride is incorporated into the new environment. Finally, the marriage ceremony called Lang Damhalak is performed, in which a fowl, a ginger and a hoe are offered to the supreme god with singing of religious hymns. In this ceremony, the bride and bridegroom are made to sit on a big bed called langadai. The groom is authorized to sit on the right side of the bride, hanging their legs in that side. The right and left legs of the groom and bride are made to press on the iron hoe until the sacrificing cock breaths last. It is performed by one of the Nauthanpas who officiates as priest. In these rites, the initiate, i.e. the person undergoing the rites, will be symbolically and in many cultures physically removed from the world to which they have belonged. Separation rites often involve symbolic actions as removing clothing or removing parts of the body. Among the Khand tribe of southern India, when agreement between the families has been reached, the girl is dressed in a red blanket and carried to the groom's village by her maternal uncle in the company of the young women of her village. The retinue carries gifts for the groom, who stands in the road, accompanied by young boys from his village armed with bamboo sticks. The women attack the young men, hitting them with sticks, stones, and clods of earth, and the boys defend themselves with their sticks. Bit by bit, they all approach the village, and when they reach it, the fighting stops. The groom's uncle takes the bride and carries her into the groom's house. This fighting is by no means child's play, and the men are sometimes seriously injured. After the bride has reached the village, there is a communal meal at the groom's expense among the Bhotia, who inhabits Sikkim. The following ceremonies take place during marriage. Astrologers determine whether the projected marriage will be favorable. 2. Uncles of the girl and the boy act as go-betweens and receive presents of money. They meet in the boy's house and then go with gifts to the girls to ask for her in marriage. 3. If the gifts they bought are accepted, the matter is concluded and the amount of the dowry is decided upon. 4. The intermediaries are given a feast and there are prayers to invoke blessings upon the bride and the groom. After the last two ceremonies, which are obviously rites of incorporation of the two families, the boy and the girl may see each other in complete freedom. A year later comes the Nyen ceremony. It is a meal at the expense of the boy's parents, attended by all relatives on both sides. The bride price is paid at this time. 6. A year after the Nyen, the Changathung ceremony is held. An astrologer is called upon to determine a favorable date for the bride's departure from her parents' home and to decide in detail those arrangements which would be auspicious. A great celebration to which lamas are invited is organized. C. Two men, at that moment, called thieves, force their way into the house, supposedly to steal the girl, and a fight is simulated. The thieves are beaten, and half-cooked meat is thrown into their mouths, although they may escape this treatment by giving money to the bride's guardians. 2 days later, the thieves are honored and named the happy strategists. Guests give presents to the bride and to her parents. A retinue departs with rejoicing. The boy's mother and father go to meet the retinue and take them to their home. There are celebrations for 2 or 3 days. G. The girl and her relatives return home. H. A year later, the Palok ceremony is held. At this time the parents give the bride her dowry, which is double the amount that has been paid for her, and she is escorted to the boy's home. This time she remains permanently. Thus the betrothal and marriage ceremonies among the Bhotia last at least 3 years. Rites of incorporation are the most prominent during marriage, as the married girl enters a new household where she establishes new relations with her groom families and relatives. 3.5 Funeral rites. Death separates the deceased from their statuses of living parent, spouse, or co-worker. The period of preparing the dead for burial or cremation moves them into a transitional phase when they are neither what they have been nor yet what they will become. Such moments of transition often involve uncertainty and potential danger. The ritual impurity of the quotes derives from its inability to respond to others, yet is still present in their everyday routines. Accordingly, people pay their respects to the dead, marking their former identity with them, express sorrow for the bereaved, and by so doing, reaffirm their continuing relationship with them. Robert Hartz argues that funeral rites involve a kind of parallel process in which the decay of the dead reflects the path of grief in the bereaved. Bereavement involves both the social change of status of people from, say, being a wife to being a widow, from being a child to being an orphan, or from being a subordinate adult to becoming the head of the family. It also involves psychological changes of identity associated with such shifts. Human beings become dependent upon each other and, in a sense, each identity is made up of elements of other people's influence. People become part of each other, and thus when one dies a portion of one's self perishes as well. Some theories of grief discuss this in terms of attachment and interpret bereavement as the loss that follows when attachments are removed. The fear of ghosts or spirits, for example, can be related to both the dimensions of status and identity. In terms of status, ghosts and spirits can be seen as the dead who have not been successfully moved from their place in this world to that of the next. They are those who are caught in between the realm of an unintended state. Potentially dangerous entities or phenomena, as they symbolize radical change that challenges the social life set up against such change. Sometimes funeral rites exist to try to get such spiritual forces finally to leave the world of the living and get on with their future destiny. At its most extreme, rites of exorcism serve to banish the dead or other supernatural entities and prevent them from influencing the living. In terms of identity, this time the identity of the living, ghosts and spirits, perhaps also include vivid dreams of the dead, all reflect the individual experience of a bereaved person who is still, psychologically speaking, caught up with the identity of the deceased person. Physical death has also been widely employed as an idiom to describe the leaving of an old status and the entry into a new one. In the case of death befalling on an Orao family, the lineage members have some obligations: gons cremate or bury their dead. Children, unmarried persons, and individuals dying an inauspicious death, for instance, in an epidemic, are buried without much ceremony. Gons believe humans have a life force and a spirit. On death, the life force is reincarnated into another earthly existence, but the spirit remains in the other world. Gons perform death rituals to help the spirit move into the other world and to ease its acceptance by other clan spirits. This rite, known as Karun, must be done to fulfill an obligation to the deceased. Memorial pillars honor the dead. Gons believe ancestral spirits watch over the living, punish offenders, and guard-gond communities among the Majwar, Manji, Majia, a small mixed tribe who have apparently originated from the Gonds, Mundas and Kavars. When a man is at the point of death, they place a little cooked rice and curds in his mouth so that he may not go hungry to the other world, in view of the fact that he has probably eaten very little during his illness. Some cotton and rice are also placed near the head of the corpse in the grave so that he may have food and clothing in the next world. Mourning is observed for 5 days, and at the end of this period the mourners should have their hair cut. But if they cannot get it done on this day, the rite may be performed on the same day in the following year. Among the Kol tribe of India, the funeral rites takes place in the following way. Immediately after death, the corpse is placed on the ground so that the soul should more easily find its way to the home of the dead, which is under the earth. 2. The corpse is washed and painted yellow to chase away evil spirits who would stop the soul on its journey. 3. For the same purpose the assembled relatives and neighbors utter pitiable cries. 4. The corpse is placed on a scaffold with the feet facing forward so that the soul should not find the way back to the hut, and for the same reason the procession travels by detours. The cortege must not include either children or girls. The women cry, the men are silent. 6. Each man carries a piece of dry wood to throw on the pyre. 7. Rice and the tools of the deceased's sex are placed there, and in the mouth of the corpse there are rice cakes and silver coins for the journey, since the soul retains a shadow of the body. 8. The women leave, and the pyre is lighted. The litter is also burned to prevent the deceased's return. 9. The men gather the calcified bones, place them in a pot, and bring the pot back to the deceased's house where it is hung from a post. Smiley grains of rice are strewn along the route, and food is placed in front of the door so that the deceased, should he return in spite of all precautions, will have something to eat without harming anyone. 11. All the deceased's utensils are carried far away because they have become impure and because the deceased may be hidden in them. 12. The house is purified by a consecrated meal. 13. After a certain time, the ceremony of betrothal or union of the deceased with the population of the lower world is the woman who carries the pot, leaps with joy. 14. A marriage retinue with music, etc., goes to the village from which the deceased and his ancestors have originated. 15. The pot containing the bones of the deceased is deposited in a small ditch, above which a stone is erected. 16. On their return, the participants must bathe. Among the Lushai tribe of northeast India, funeral rites takes place as follows. The deceased is dressed in his best clothes and tied in a sitting position on a scaffold of bamboo, while next to him are placed the tools and weapons of his sex. A pig, a goat, and a dog are killed, and all the relatives, friends and neighbors divide the meat. The deceased is also given food and drink. At nightfall, he is placed in a grave dug right next to the house. His nearest relative says goodbye and asks him to prepare everything for those who will come and join him. The soul, accompanied by those of the pig, the goat, and the dog, without whom it would not find its way to the land of Mithikua, where life is hard and painful. But if the deceased has killed men or animals on the hunt, or if he has given feasts to the whole village, he goes to a pleasant country on the other side of the river, where he feasts continuously. Since women can neither fight nor hunt nor give feasts, they cannot go to this beautiful country unless their husbands take them there. After a certain time, the soul leaves one or the other of these regions and returns to earth in the form of a hornet. After another lapse of time, it is transformed into water and evaporates in the form of dew. And if dewdrops fall on a man, that man will beget a child who will be a reincarnation of the deceased. Rites of separation are the most prominent in funeral rites, as the deceased is separated physically from the other members of the society. In this section you read about of rites of marriage and funeral. 3.6 Summary. Rites of passage have three phases: separation, transition, and reincorporation. In the first phase, people withdraw from their current status and prepare to move from one place or status to another. The first phase of separation comprises symbolic behavior signifying the detachment of the individual or group from an earlier fixed point in the social structure. There is often a detachment or cutting away from the former self in this phase, which is signified in symbolic actions and rituals. For example, the cutting of the hair for a person who has just joined the army. He or she is cutting away the former self. The civilian, the transition, liminal phase. The second is the period between states, during which one has left one place or state but hasn't yet entered or joined the next. The attributes of liminality or of liminal personae, threshold people, are necessarily ambiguous. In the third phase, reaggregation or reincorporation, the passage is consummated by the ritual subject, having completed the rite and assumed their new identity. One re-enters society with one's new status. Reincorporation is characterized by elaborate rituals and ceremonies, like debutante balls and college graduation, and by new ties. Thus, in rites of incorporation there is widespread use of the sacred bond, the sacred cord, the knot, and of analogous forms such as the belt, the ring, the bracelet, and the crown dot. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with next chapter.